like sort of coming of age for the band, something like you change. It's the thing that I think it's more like you grown up or something like that.
Yeah, I think that for all intents and purposes, this is kind of an album about growing up. Not only is it our kind of, I wouldn't necessarily use that term coming of age album, but I could see how somebody, observing it might. But yeah, this is a record about rite of passage, about struggling into your true role in your life, and going through those trials and emerging on the other side, something better and different and brighter and perhaps different than what you thought you were,
I would say like when I hear promises, it's like, wow, it's so different. It's not something that we expect from you or something like that. So far, how you think about the feedback? You check the feedback of
I have to take all of the feedback and the critique that we get with a grain of salt. I've learned to, at least, just because if you're willing to accept praise with what you do, you also have to be willing to accept critique. And we've been getting about an equal amount of both so far on this record. But at this point in my life, I've come to realize that that's a good thing. It's a good thing when you're getting kind of it has a polarizing effect. A lot of people who thought they knew our band and thought that they were going to get what they expected from this record seem disappointed in the record. A lot of people who just are along for the ride with us and enjoy us because they know us in a certain capacity were surprised by the record in really good ways, and that it was not what they were expecting. Not everybody can handle those kinds of things as well as others. So the fact that it's having a divisive effect on our listeners is a really good thing. And I would only hope that we could maybe even attract new people who hadn't even heard of us, or people who had maybe dismissed us in the past as something that they wouldn't be interested in, hear something and be like, wow, I like this,
It's quite simple.
Yes. It's not...
It's the way you approach that new chapter of Incubus.
Yeah.
Or simple.
It wasn't a simple record to write and record, but it was deliberate in its attempt to be restrained. It was restraint is a technique that we hadn't utilized really before in this band. And so what's funny is that we kind of had to go back to square one to find novel territory. Our band had become known to our listeners, but also to us, the way we know how to write music. We've become known as the band that filled up as much space as possible musically and melodically. And for many, many years now, actually, I have been truly interested in exploring the notion of saying potentially more profound things as a lyricist and as a singer in less space. So almost like an economy of ideas. And I really think that that's what we touched on this album. It's really an economy of sound, restraint. Maybe, on a really good day, moments of grace. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. That's what I'm hoping someone might pick up on.
Okay. So for when I listen to your music or your songs in your lyrics, I feel like you have positive thinking approach to the way you see things and to say about things in your life, even good or bad. But then when you try to express, it's always like positive, not negative.
Part of that is, I think that's a fair observation. First, part of that, maybe most of that, is unconscious. When I'm writing lyrics, it'd be funny to show you my journals where they happen.
Yeah.
They're very, very rarely written in a linear sense from point A to point Z. It's like point G to Q to Z to A. Like it just goes like this, and then I sort of arrange things here. So I feel like it is. I feel good about the fact that my lyrics seem to have an inherent positivity, even when I'm addressing tough subject matter or dark subject matter. I have an unconscious tendency to round it out at the end and show the lighter side of things, you know. So I would like to think that that's good.
Okay. So what about your visual artwork that inspire you to come back to write music? Because music is another art form, but then you express in words, not.
Yeah. You know, I was actually drawing in my sketchbook this morning in my hotel room and thinking about the similarities between writing a song and drawing a picture or painting a picture and the differences. And the similarities are a little more obvious. Similarities really lie in the impetus. Like it's really just born of a desire to make something out of nothing. With sound, it's like there's nothing, you have a blank canvas, so to speak, and then you just start sort of pulling noises and twisting them together, and then you pull words into those noises, and it just, you know, it's a weird, mysterious thing that's songwriting, but then with it, it has a different sort of emotional resonance and a communicative resonance that, for me, like drawing a picture, and this is where the differences come in, drawing a picture is a little bit different because it's based more on a desire to just doodle. Like I'm a doodle bug. Have you heard that term?
Yeah.
Or I just have a pen, and I see a blank piece of paper. It's almost like a tick, in a way. If I'm sitting there and listening to music, I just, literally my fingers just starts moving.
Yeah.
And so once again, it's kind of unconscious, but I've learned how to be aware of it, and when the desire starts to arrive, and so I'll make room for it. I'll clear the desk, grab a pen, start putting stuff down. And what's interesting about it is a lot of the time the two things will fuse together. I'll be drawing a picture, and if there's no music playing, music starts to arrive out of the ether. And I'll be drawing a picture, and then words start to emerge out from the picture. And so there are lots of differences between the two things, but I think there are more similarities than anything.
But have you run out of words sometimes?
Run out of words?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Because writing is something like for sometimes, like you said, you can drawing something, but words you have to mean something.
Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't dried up yet. I actually feel like I have a lot of territory yet to cover, a lot of ground to cover still.
You read a lot?
I do, and I think that may be one of the reasons why I feel continually inspired, because the people who I end up really looking up to, their minds still confound me and inspire me. So in an attempt to process those things and honor those people that have inspired me, I feel compelled to continually write and to create. You know.
Asking about your band members, still inspire each other as usual, or something new coming up from like when you separate, you have to live your own life outside studio, and then you come back to studio and then start working together again?
Every time we've gotten back together to make records, it's been a little bit different. Oh, they've always inspired me. That's why we're still a band. If we stopped inspiring each other, I think we'd stop being a band. But this process was different, more different. It was more unique than it's ever been. We wrote probably maybe a quarter of the album we actually wrote while we were in the studio. And so it was interesting to witness the shifts in the dynamic. You know, it's constantly in flux, this process. And so there are times when certain people rise up and become sort of more powerful forces in the songwriting process, and then there are times when those people will sort of take a more of a backseat approach and just are there to support. But this was, like I said, definitely the most unique so far. I think you can kind of hear it on the record.
Yeah.
It's a more unique record for us.
I think I read somewhere that Mike said this record is like you work more on the studio, not before. Like before that, for the previous album, you like try to make the record that you can play live first.
Right. That absolutely. We, you know, actually every record we've written before this one was pretty much done before we came into the studio, and then we would perform a lot of it live in the studio with, you know, everything mic'd. But this record, we had some stuff written, and then we had lots of ideas. And so what was unique about it was that we brought a lot of the ideas in their kind of, in their burgeoning states into the studio and allowed them to unfold there. So it's definitely more of a studio record. We've had to learn how to play the songs in the live environment. But that's been fun too, adapting songs for the first time. It's kind of neat.
Okay. One more question now. Going back to on the road again, so like this time, what's the challenge you want to be on tour, go to work?
What's been challenging? Food.
Food? Really?
Food's my biggest challenge on tour because I eat mostly vegan.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegan per se,
Yeah.
but I eat mostly that way.
Yeah.
And having been home now for a couple of years,
Yeah.
I've gotten a very kind of successful food routine.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to throw it all into flux again by just traveling all around the world. I have to let other, to compromise because you just can't find the things that you would normally eat.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I'm just bringing more food with me now in my bag.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel the fear of uncertainty stinging clear, and I can't help but ask myself how much I'll let